Well, delighted to be joined by Hall of Fame boxing promoter Frank Warren, and Frank, that was fun.
It was, his last ever press conference for a fight. And you think back over the years, it was February, what is it?
2007.
2007, so that's 18 years ago. And it's amazing where all those years have gone, but and he's been a magnificent warrior for British boxing. We've had some seriously entertaining moments. I've had some frustrating moments with him. I've had my ups and downs, but I think it's quite fitting that his last fight is with Queensberry myself here, and excuse me. This is a good fight, a very good fight. Otto and Valen's not just showing up.
No.
And they got the spice and that massive carrot now dangled before him for an eliminator for the IBF title.
So, look, the stakes are high. What I wanted to ask you, Frank, is that press conference did kind of turn into a bit of a coronation of Derek Chisora, celebrating his moments, what he's got left, etc., etc. Otto Wallin, for large spells, was sat there not saying anything because it was all about Derek. At what point do we need to appreciate that this is a serious fight on Saturday?
It is. I've just told you what the winner gets into a world title fight, and that's what their fighters are here for. And he definitely wants that. Otto, as I say, he's going to grasp this opportunity literally with both of his hands. Joey Gamache is a two-time world champion, his trainer. They fancy the job, and it will be a hard fight. It's not going to be no easy job, that's for sure. And Derek's style is what it is. He's going to go out there, he's going to hunt him down, he's going to be throwing his punches. And Otto's told people that he's actually going to meet him head on. So that's going to be quite an interesting scenario, because one thing's for sure, if that happens, it will not go the distance, and it'll be very exciting whilst it lasts.
Well, that feels like that plays right into the hands of Derek Chisora, right? If Otto Wallin doesn't play to his strengths and fancies having a tear-up with War.
Well, I hear that, but he's a younger man, and you don't know. You don't know in these type of fights. I've got to be honest, I said a couple of years ago he should retire. He's proven me wrong, but eventually it does catch up with you. There's no doubt about that in boxing, and but he's up for it, Derek. He's trained very hard. I know he's trained very hard for this. He believes in himself, and he believes it's his destiny to go on and have 50 fights. And he only gets to the 50th fight, providing he wins this one.
How important is it that he doesn't get lost in the emotion of the occasion? He's talked about even perhaps shedding a tear whilst he's in the ring before actually having the fight. That's a lot.
Listen, he'll be shedding a tear if he gets beaten. And so he's got to just forget about that and focus on what it is. Don't worry about 50 fights. Worry about this 49th fight, because it's the most important fight of his career.
And what about this this carrot that's now been dangled? Fantastic news about it being an IBF Eliminator. Derek Chisora's last two fights could be of extreme significance in his career.
Yeah, what a way to go out. What a way to go out. If you're going to go, that's the way to do it. And you go out at the top. So, and that's what he'll want to do. He's everybody knows who he is in British boxing. He's been a fixture, hasn't he, for the last 18 years on the scene, and he's fought at every level. He's fought everybody who's out there. I can't think of too many people he's not fought. And with Otto, he's the two losses are against two world champions.
Yeah. Two of the best of this era.
In Tyson and AJ. So that's no disgrace. The rest he's won. I think he had about 27, 28 fights.
I think this is fight 31 for
31. Yeah, so there you go. So he's a very experienced fighter. This is going to be it will be an emotional fight for Derek, and it's going to be a tough fight for Derek. It's not going to be easy for him.
Will it be an emotional fight for you, Frank? Obviously, you're not throwing any punches. Thankfully, you're not taking any. But this is 18 years.
Yeah, I'd like to see him get to the 50 fight. I'd like to see him come through, win that, and I'd like to see him go out with a bang. And as he said up there, he's, and I said it to him, this will be your lot, won't it, 50? And he said yes, and I hope he sticks to that. I think he might be running for Mayor of London when he were the old Reform Party.
He certainly got his views. He certainly got his views. What's over the years? What's been to put you on the spot a bit, Frank? What's been your standout Derek Chisora moment?
There's been so many of them because he's been so controversial. I think probably the one, the Klitschko scenario, because there was so much stuff going on behind the scenes, unfairly towards him, and that's why I got so angry and annoyed about it at the time. He'd done some silly things, but what was going on behind the scenes wasn't right. And And he gave Klitschko at that time the toughest fight he had in 10 years since he fought against Lennox Lewis. I mean, he gave him a real tough fight. So much so, he was on top in the last round of that fight. And then obviously the press conference afterwards, it was off at all meetings with him and David Hay, which turned out to be yet another big moment in his career. Fantastic occasion at West Ham. Big crowd there, and controversial fight, but it was a bloody good night. He lost that fight, but he went out on it, and until he got clipped, there was nothing in it.
Yeah. And that's sort of, it feels like there's always there's an additional line about these losses. There's always something, but it was very close.
Well, look at the fight he had with Usyk. He was in that fight. I mean, he was in that fight until Usyk, like, was it about the 10th round or whatever it was, until he got back in control of the fight. But he gave Usyk a lot of problems.
Well, that's Derek Chisora. Let's keep the conversation about the heavyweights right now. Obviously, we've got February 22nd coming up. Daniel Dubois and Joe Parker, IBF title on the line. What are your thoughts now heading into this? There's been a lot of chat that maybe Daniel's overlooking Joe Parker.
No, he's not. He's focused on what he's got to do, and he has to be. Joe Parker's on a run. He's had some good wins. He's a winning fighter, and he's a former world champion. He's got a lot of experience, and he's going to give Daniel a lot of problems to answer. I think Daniel can deal with it, but it won't be. Again, on paper, it's not easy, and Daniel is, again, like Joe's, on a real good roll. His last 3 fights, he's gone in as underdogs in all those fights and won all the fights by knockout. And this time round, he's going in as favourite, so it's going to be interesting.
What are you making of his confidence? He's just a different guy now.
He fancies it. He's found himself, hasn't he? He found himself after the fight he had with Usyk. And I know I don't want to get into all that controversy of what happened in the fight, but after that fight, we spoke about the fight with him, his dad and trainer and Don, and it's a fight that he lost that fight in his head. And his mental attitude has changed, as everybody is plain to see in his last 3 fights.
Matured, confidence.
He's matured,
already.
And it's a bit like Derek in some ways, because you have a loss on your record. It's not the end of the world. It's what you learn from it, where you come through. I mean, obviously they're a different age group. He's only 27, Daniel, and he's a young 27, and Derek's coming. Derek is, let's face it, he's coming to the end of his career, and he'll want to go out on a high.
You forget how young Daniel Dubois is. Remarkable that he's 27.
Yeah.
Let me keep you on a couple more things in the heavyweight division. Tyson Fury. What can you tell us? Obviously, look, he said that he's retired. I assume that you've spoken a few times since. I can't imagine
what can
you're
I
trying
tell
to.
You? He's retired.
Yeah. Look, but I can't imagine you're trying to bring him back. But what are those conversations like? How is he?
I'm not trying to bring him back. I've not even discussed it with him. He's retired, and that's it. If he ever decided, and that's a big if, that'd be his decision to make with his family. I'm certainly would in no way try to encourage him doing that. He's been a magnificent servant for British boxing, one of the 2 best heavyweights of the 21st century. Done it at every level, won world titles in other guys' backyards against good quality fighters. One fighter, the best of his generation in Klitschko. He's done everything that's been asked of him, and he's had a hard career in some respects. Some of the things self-inflicted, and when you look where, when the sort of first time round after he won the world title, the problems that he had, the depths of despair, the boozing, the messing about with stuff he shouldn't mess about with. You look at all that and those terrible suicidal thoughts that he weren't far off of. I mean, that in itself is a mountain to climb, and he did that, and he showed what he's all about, his courage, and obviously with the support of his family, and he come through that, and obviously went on to through boxing, which I think was his saviour at the time, which gave him some focus, went on to win and regain the world title. He's been a magnificent servant for British boxing, and he's just got to enjoy himself now. Enjoy himself. He had a tough year last year. Two world title fights.
The training camps.
Three training camps. The cut eye. All those things takes a lot out of you. And he, when you're in training camp, you're not with your family. You're not seeing your kids grow up. He's got 7 kids. You're not seeing them grow up. You're missing chunks of their life. and he's with them now, and he's enjoying himself, and God bless him.
Some things are bigger than boxing, huh?
Well, he's financially secure. He's made stacks of money, and as I say, good luck to him. He doesn't do it. He's a fighting man. If he comes back to fight, and I'm not saying he will, and I've got to be honest, I hope he doesn't. But if he does, it's because he's not doing it for the money. Of course, he'd get paid if he did come back. But he does it because he's a fighting man.
Well, we're saying goodbye in the UK to another fighting man on Saturday night.
Yeah. It's like a changing of the guard, isn't it, at the moment with all what's going down.
End of an era, Frank.
It is an end of an era, and you know, there's all the young guys coming through. It's really. I mean, we're blessed in this country of heavyweights. You know, when I started off in boxing, British heavyweights. There were big names, big fights, but none of them won world titles. Every time they went to challenge, they got beaten. The Americans were the most dominant nation. Look how it is now. Take Usyk out of the picture, and we're the most dominant nation.
Absolutely. Frank, thank you so much.
Pleasure.
We will see you tomorrow for the weigh-in, and brilliant stuff today.
Cheers,
thank
Dev.
you,
Well done,
Frank.
mate.